Freedom and censorship can't exist in the same world. And that's true whether it's the government or private corporations who do the censoring. Hi, I'm Ron Coleman, and welcome to the ColemanNation podcast. It's a show where I sit down with guests to discuss the future of free expression and thought in our interconnected world. Here we will focus on issues involving social media, cancel culture, and free expression that everybody who cares about ideas or freedom should be wrestling with. I have a very interesting guest today, someone whose name might not be familiar to you yet, but who I think is a guy who is starting to happen. And because he is, a whole bunch of people sent me this link at the same time to Dr. Willie J. Montague's tweet, in which he features a trailer from a documentary called Systematic Deception. Dr. Montague is running for Congress in Florida's 10th district. And because he is a little bit less well known than some of my other guests, and that's going to happen from time to time, that everybody could be world famous all at once. I got to ask him to introduce himself, tell us what he's about in his own words rather than have me read off his bio. And then we'll work our way towards the theme of systematic deception.
Great. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Coleman. And I'll state this. I am first a believer, and then two, I state about my political stances as far as me walking in the conservative movement. But I'll start with myself being the founder and president of House of Timothy, which is a non-for-profit organization that helps to cultivate youth and young adult men ages 7 to 25. And then we also go from that to working with human trafficking to help fight against human trafficking. We knowing that Florida is number 3 in the country, and Orange County, where I live, is number 2 in the region. And so I do a lot of work with community development, cultivation of youth and young adult men, and really big about restoring the nuclear family. And so my background is predominantly centered around ministry and organization as far as activism in the community, as far as driving the community forward to work together.
Is the House of Timothy in Orlando?
Yes, the House of Timothy is in Orlando, but we serve pretty much a national base where we have phone calls from all over the country, sometimes even out of the country, where people want us to work with their son, because I work with just men, work with their sons and helping.
That is very smart. That's very smart. You just cut yourself out of a world of trouble. Let someone else handle the girls, man. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry I interrupted you. Okay, tell us more.
No problem. So it just is really about, I grew up in a fatherless home. And then I grew up in a place where it wasn't the most, I guess you say, the upscale area, but I recognized about opportunity. And I share the story about the railroad track where we live, where we still had pretty much like a segregation. And that segregation was dealing with, blacks, white. You go across the railroad track, it was palm trees, it was brick roads, it was flourishing businesses and whatnot. And then you come back on our side, and then you had pretty much a sense of oppression. And what I realized was that race does not determine whether I can get a palm tree to palm trees or brick roads. It was about the mindset. And that's when I recognized that I had to do something, even in my young age, that what can I do? So I launched off an organization called Hope, Help Our People Excel, which helped to spearhead where I am currently with working with House of Timothy and so forth.
So how long has House of Timothy been in business?
We've been up, I want to say we really started back in 2010. We did not actually get our non-for-profit status until 2015, but we have been working before then. And then in 2004 is when I actually started the organization. I was like 16 years old. So it's been around, but we're actually in, we're now, an established organization versus me just having a vision and a plan. But it's exciting to be able to see the results of that and see those who have come up and around, or those that have been impacted. I get messages sometimes from those who were my classmates, who were those who challenged me or were pretty much bullies, and they're coming back and saying, now I see the reason why you were like you were. And, I'm seeing that now, I'm in that path. So it took some years for them to get there, like 20 years, but at least they're coming back and acknowledging that somehow, some way I was able to help them.
Well, let me ask you something that maybe other listeners are wondering. Who's Timothy? Why Timothy? As a Jew, that's one of those names that is not part of our tradition, and I know that it is. He's a figure from the New Testament. What's the relevance to Timothy in the naming of the house of Timothy?
And that's where it's to me is a biblical reference. I look at I go back to where I didn't have a father figure or any type of male role model. So when I look in the New Testament and you look at Paul dealing with Timothy, that's where that name Timothy comes from. Paul was a mentor to Timothy, was someone that he called him a son of the faith. And so I looked at it as a place where people would come to a house of other Timothys, other young men who need coaching, needed development, needing mentorship, and fathers. And that's where it comes from. And actually, I have an adopted son. Florida's an adult adoption state. So I adopted him when he was 19 through the organization. That's when I recognized that, okay, this is why it's House of Timothy. We're taking in young men, and it's way bigger than just having a rehabilitation. We really consider ourselves a family-oriented organization. And pretty much all of them call me Pops or Papa or Dad because we just become that family.
So here you are serving humanity, serving God, helping people to have something you didn't have, and which I was very privileged to have, but my dad didn't, which was a dad, and doing good works. And then you decide you want to go to the dark side, by which I mean Washington, D.C. So what would make a man of your quality do something like that?
Well, I got involved with politics when I was 14. It was my high school teacher that introduced me to conservative values. And so alongside of the conservative values, alongside of me also working with, conservative values and working along with my organizational outreach to the community, I recognize that now more than ever, that if I really want to get something accomplished, I can get a bigger grasp on that by being able to go in the political arena. Because I was sharing with someone last night that, I've had church, I've started churches, and you have tithes, offering, or whatever the case may be. People want to give, and you may have that, and when they give, it's like, okay, you can't really get them to go past that. I run a nonprofit organization. You really can't get people to donate to nonprofits like they used to. So when I looked at it, I'm like, I can't really go anywhere. So then when I looked at me running for office, I started thinking about how all politics is local, and that it's time to return the voice of the people back to the people. And they're looking for action. And my 3 R's that I stand on is real, relevant, and relational. People want you to be real with them. They want you to be transparent and honest. They want you to be relevant, making sure that it appeals to what is happening currently right now. And then they want you to be relational. How can you relate to me? And I have stories for days because I've been there. I've been homeless. I've experienced those things. And so I realized, wait a minute, this is really ministry. This is really ministry. Of course, I got to do, politics, but it's ministry. And so I look at it like I can get more accomplished in executing the goals that I feel like I'm called to do. I'm doing it this way. And so I spearheaded the movement of running for last cycle. I didn't get past the primary, jumped in pretty late because it was, the pandemic and everything like that. And then I made a promise that I was going to continue to run no matter what the outcome was after the primary, and I did. The primary was August 18th. I filed for 2022, August 19th of 2020, and I continued to fight. And so I'm into politics because I believe that if we want to really see change, we need to start now. You know how so many politicians will get up and say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z when we get elected. Well, just 2 weeks ago, I launched off a whole campaign that is designated to getting the work done now with grassroots. I mean, literally it's working. We have people bringing jobs from from Illinois, bringing jobs down to help us with getting skill trade type schools. And we're opening a school, a 9th to 12th grade level school. Hopefully this fall we get everything together. We're working with reducing the homeless population, especially our veterans, because we have 3,500 plus. So we're working in that area. So we have like so many things we're doing. It's called Let's Do It. That's the campaign's name, connected to my campaign for Congress. And so that's why I jumped in. We have a bigger platform. We have more people that are have been drawn to us, and they're saying, wait a minute, Willie is about action. That's really honestly my heart, and that I'm after is like, what can we do right now? Because as I tell people, you can walk down the streets and see that your community is dirty, but they can't wait for you to pick up the trash in November on election day because you're elected. Now you can go pick up the trash. The trash, it needs to be picked up. The community needs to be clean. People need jobs. People, need to find out what can I do without the government's dependency. And so that's where I am. What can we do? How can we do it? And when can we do it?
Isn't it just enough to call yourself a community organizer, though? Do you really have to do anything?
Yeah, well, I can say that I'm a community organizer, or I can get up there and make some noise in DC, and I'm a noise maker. so I want to get up there and challenge. And I challenge even candidates right now. Like when candidates are running, I say, can you show me what you're doing? Like, you're running off this platform, great, but let's change. And actually, it has started a lot of stuff going on in my county, because we have surrounding counties where people are running for office, and it has really challenged people because they're like, Willie's over there doing that, and they're like, okay, well, great. There's like, so are you going to do something? So it actually has put fire under the feet of a lot of politicians and that are already elected and those who are running, because it's like, we need you to make some moves. Show us that you're actually busy about it. So I think I get to be the example. One of the newspapers said I was too community focused. That was okay too.
What, I mean, seriously, what were they trying to say? What were they trying to say?
Basically, what they was trying to say is,
you don't know about foreign policy, like Congressman Ocasio, for example. You're not an expert like her.
No, I'm not. I guess I'm not there. But they basically saying, run for something local. What you're saying, I said, I get it. I can talk to you if I need to and research, get developed. I tell people, you know what you know. I can get down to the policy. I've been around politics since I was 14. So, speaking about policies and statistics, that's great. But the everyday person that's going to go to the election polls have absolutely no access to know what's the necessity of knowing the percentage of how much traffic goes to the street and helping to rebuild infrastructure. They care less. And so my goal is to talk to those who are actually going to vote, those who are actually going to stand and be the voice for me on the local level. All the other people I can come and talk to you and get on, Newsmax or Fox and tell you about those statistics, which I can. But it's time to appeal to the people that actually are going to vote for you. So that's where I am.
So what do you think is between you and achieving that goal? Besides the Democratic Party, which supposedly has a better hold on the 10th than it did before redistricting.
I think that the challenge I'm facing now is really just you definitely the fundraising effort, especially when you got and then sometimes it's pretty much almost like the establishment thing, but it's more like people need to realize like this is the real deal. I'm the real deal, and so my challenge that I'm facing now is getting my voice to be heard in certain platforms where it's not. And I feel like if people would actually be able to hear the plan, hear where I am, see that, okay, wait a minute, let's not try to fight against him because it doesn't look like what we're accustomed to. Let's get busy. So that's what I'm facing pretty much between, of course, fundraising is always important, but also making sure that even outside of the Democrats, we're actually having bipartisan support with the campaign. I've had people switch their party affiliations because they want to make sure to vote for me. So, we're definitely on that side are doing well, but we just need to be able to get that message to larger platforms and people that can actually say, wait a minute, this guy has something is worth a listen to.
Talking about getting listened to, the issue is, what caught my attention just in addition to your overall story here is the pinned tweet to a documentary by Frank Panico called Systematic Deception. You want to tell us about that and what your role is?
Absolutely. So this documentary film is going to be full-fledged. I can't wait. We're waiting to get the date on it, the actual launch. But he was introduced to me by someone else who's running for Congress in a neighboring district. And some of the people that is in it, I actually, know because we met when we was in Vegas at a training for candidates. And so really the film is really really to debunk the notion that we are in this race war, and that when I walk outside of the house, I am a target now because of the color of my skin. And so really we're having a dialogue. This documentary is a dialogue. It's to share about our experiences as being Black and what we have seen, the corruption that has taken place with the Democrat Party, how they have come in to make everything a divide, and what our examples of in life, like how we have experienced it and where we come from and how we get out of it, and how we can expose this left's agenda, pretty much, which is a racist agenda. And I believe that when this is fully released, I believe it doesn't matter what anyone's party affiliation is. It doesn't matter what their beliefs are with race. They're going to have. I've had so many people message me and said, "Thank you. This has opened my eye. Thank you guys for this." And that was only like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So the whole film is like 2 hours. So it's going to be interesting when it comes out. And I'm excited because we recorded some great information. I mean, my part alone was an hour and a half. Of course, that's not all going to be in there, but it was an hour and a half of recording, and it was nonstop conversation and some like targets. And we just called it out like it was, from down to the church, where sometimes that is some of our issues, because the church also helps to pander to this divide. So it's going to be, I may not be liked when it's all finished, but we'll have the truth out there.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's got to get out there, right? That's part of what we're trying to do, build a little bit of anticipation for it. I haven't seen it myself, and if it weren't for my brother sending me your tweet and then finding out that you followed me, which was even more exciting, I said, boy, one thing I know about Willie Montague is that he has excellent taste. So have you yourself encountered this deception system about race relations in the United States in your career? In other words, in recent years, not necessarily 10 or 20 years ago.
I believe we have to have the conversation, and the conversation is whether or not we are at a disservice because of the color of my skin, and I do not believe that. I do not believe we're at it. And I shared that story about the crossing the railroad track. It was led to believe that because I was on the other side of the railroad track, that I was the one who was suppressed. I was the one who was oppressed because I could not have what was on the other side of the railroad track. Then, because of that thinking, that's how most of the Black communities think. It's because what they have been told. And to me, one of the greatest sins is the tradition of man, because grandfather said, grandmother said, mama said, daddy said, and I go by what they said. I never myself took the initiative to cross over the line. And that's what I did. I crossed the railroad tracks, and I recognized this is not true. That's why I can speak personally for myself, that in these latter days that I've been running for office, doing with organizations, I have not experienced this great divide that they're talking about, even when it comes to critical race theory, even when it comes to of the saying voter suppression because I'm Black, and they're changing the voter laws and requiring voter ID, is suppressing the Black vote. I just don't understand it.
Well, Willie, hold on a second. You're a Black man. I assume that you don't know how to get an ID, right? I mean, I'm trying to be real polite here, but my assumption is that a man who started all these schools and who speaks at all these prestigious universities is still, notwithstanding all those achievements. I imagine guys like you and Barack Obama and Jay-Z none of you have IDs. None of you people have IDs, right?
Right. It's been so difficult. I just can't make it.
There is this, would you not agree that there is a sort of conception among people, whether or not they have much to do with Black people in their everyday lives or not, or any minority, that if I open my eyes and notice that you're Black, just as you notice that I'm a Jew, or that I've got glasses, or immutable traits, that I'm already doing something wrong. The systematic racism is now kicking in because I acknowledge that there's a difference between us. But and, I mean, I know that that's allowed in one direction, but if I do it from my direction, that's some kind of problem.
Right, and that's what it is. Most of this is one-sided again because it goes back to your perception. I acknowledge what I saw based off of what my eyes, and then you acknowledge what you saw from me, and then somehow going back to that whole definition or defining factor of critical race theory based off the fact that, you know, an example that I heard that was used is there's a store owner. The store owner, there's two customers, one is black, one is white, both come into the store. The clerk takes the order of the black person first. The black person can say, "Oh, you think I'm going to steal, so you had to come to me first." So then the other scenario of that is, oh, now I'm because I'm black, I'm a second class citizen. And so either way you put it is like because of the color of my skin, not because of my environment, not because of my values, none of that is thought about. It's because of the color of my skin, and because you look at me, either way you put it, if you take me first or take me last, I am now a target because of the color of my skin. And to me, okay, and I'm gonna back up. Yes, there are individuals who are racist. And I tell people because racism is a condition of the heart. That is what racism is. So you can't get rid of racism. And I said, because if that was the case, they would have already, Biden would have already did an executive order. You can't get rid of racism because it's a condition of the heart. But what you can do, I tell people, it's not what you say or do that matters as much as how you respond to what is said or done to you. And so my response to any type of racism that I notice, and I have been around, I cannot say I have not experienced it in some form or fashion, that did not change my mindset because that individual is misinformed and uneducated. And it's either I can inform that individual of who I am, what we stand for, and they can change their thinking and they can repent and get the condition of their heart correct, or they can choose to live in that deception for themselves. But to make a widespread and paint a broad stroke, that's absolutely absurd to me. And that's what's happening. And I was just on Mark Lamont Hill, and it was horrible because he has absolutely no real sense of really what's happening around other than him trying to be the good guy in the black community, and is destructive and poison. Sorry, Mark.
You hit upon a couple. Yeah, Mark. Mark follows me very closely, and he's going to really be offended. You said, your example about going into the McDonald's. Was it McDonald's? I remember when I first realized, like 10 years ago, that the McDonald's commercials were all using black voices.
Yeah. To me, it's getting worse because I'm looking at movies. There's a movie it's a series called Blacklist, and I love it. Raymond Red, I love that kind of type of style of things. But now I notice that they're starting to include more black characters, and then they're starting to now speak about the issues that's happening in society. That's included, and I'm noticing that even when they're changing the characters with superheroes, it's becoming because, as I mentioned in there, if you want somebody, I think it was this pastor. I don't know if those that know Lecrae, the Christian rapper. It was some pastor that went to go dust his shoes off as an act of like surrender or humility because he's black. And this white pastor, and I said, is this serious? If that was flipped around, we would be in an uproar. Oh, you want me to clean your shoe? And now it's okay because it's reversed. And like now, like this is what we've been through for the last 400 years. So now we're going to show you what it means, what we went through. Again, it goes back to, it's a one-sided thing because once somebody comes and say, no, you clean my shoes, what, you ain't gonna have me clean now because I'm black, so it's getting out of hand. And but it's only looked that way, like I said, one-sided.
I want to tell you a story, and this is going to be, one of the criticisms I've gotten in my early foray into podcasting is I talk too much. And that's a problem. So actually, someone said to me last night, firstborns talk too much, and he's another lawyer. But I have to tell you this story. The example you gave, when I was in college, some people see me tweet this story. They used to pay, if you could make a few bucks if you would be willing to be a subject in psychology experiments. And, it was really light. It wasn't like medicine. It was be a human guinea pig for some behavioral research. So I signed up for one of these, and I went into a room, and they said, okay, "You're next, Mr. Coleman. Please go down the hallway and then go into one of the two rooms at the end." So I go down the hallway and there are two rooms. They're equally furnished the same way. Two guys in there. On the right is a black guy, and the left is a white guy. And I look in, and neither one of them makes eye contact with me. So I said, "Okay, I better go into the room with the black guy, or it'll look like I favored the white guy." And as soon as I walked in the room, they said, "Okay, the experiment's over." And the student who was running the experiment said to me, "Okay, you should be congratulated. You should congratulate yourself because you're not prejudiced." I said, "What do you mean I'm not prejudiced? I chose the black guy because I felt defensive about being perceived as prejudiced."
Right.
That doesn't mean alternatively, I'm in favor. I prefer the black guy. But this was 30 plus years ago. It's such a facile way of addressing these issues, but I think it's the same level of so-called sophistication. It's pathetic.
Again, it's the condition of the heart, and anybody could, like, some of these people are doing this just on the surface of things and may in fact not even agree with that. And that's why I said it doesn't matter at the end of the day how much they try to paint this world or this country as not being this racist nation, whatever, because of what they want people to perceive. If people are going to be that, they're going to be that. The same thing is that I can do anything more or less to be who I am. The same way it is with you can sit there all day long and keep saying that the chicken is not the chicken, it's a turkey, but that chicken will never become the turkey.
Right.
So it never. You can talk it all day long and say, yeah, I'm not racist, I'm not this, I'm not that, and you do this. Like I said, I can go and say that I'm a car and sit in the garage, and I'm still going to be a human. I'm not going to be a car because I'm sitting in the garage.
So, if you were in Congress, if you made it, what would you be able to do there to change this? I'm going to call it messaging, because by calling it messaging, I get to keep it in the theme of my podcast. What's step one for Dr. Willie J. Montague, for Representative Willie J. Montague, Florida 10, R?
I would say the first step is, and I've shared this, is I want to find out what other colleagues that are, because I believe we'll flip the house, other colleagues are looking at, and how we can collectively work together to engage the messaging, engage the conversation, because I believe the conversation need to be had from that level, not just tweets, not just segments of where that person there, but that we all get together. It doesn't matter, black, white, or whoever. And we sit there and we say, let us actually speak from our platform and use that. And then we can look at ways where we can really address and say, this is it. We addressed it from a federal level. We said it. There's really, I believe that, again, it's up to the states and those individuals to make choices when it comes to their lives and themselves. So I don't believe in any federal regulations that we can really do, but I would say that we can have the conversation. That's the first thing I would do, is sit down with others that would agree with what I'm saying, agree whether they're black, white, or whoever, and say, let's make this into a town hall. Let's have a town hall. Let's have this discussion. Let's bring in some experts. Let's hear the opposing side, and let's find out, this is where we stand. This is our stance. Let's go. And that's what I want to do. I'm a person that don't mind being confrontational, because I feel like so long we'll kind of back up, say, I'm not going to say X, Y, and Z because, I can. And I'm like, no, you choose not to. Not that you can't. You choose not to because you don't want to, scare off either one or the other sides. But when truth is truth, and I love the scripture that says, is in Galatians, that said, have I now therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?
That's right on. That's exactly. And the fact of the matter is that is today, that speaking the truth has indeed become an act of rebellion in this environment, such that, especially in the political tribal environment. I mean, have you been called an Uncle Tom yet politically?
I've been called Uncle Tom. I've been called a killer. I've been called a coon. The list goes on. So I've been called everything. Some things I don't even want to repeat.
I bet you. I don't want you to repeat them on my show either, because censorship is a thing. Well, I'm really glad. I can't believe how fast the time went by. It's been great talking to you and getting to know you a little bit. And I'm going to be looking out for your stuff on Twitter. And when that documentary comes out, you'll be sure to let me know so that we can help spread it around. There is a tremendous mission that we have, which is to speak the truth, whether or not people consider us enemies. Our job is to be truthful and to fight the good fight. And it looks like you're used to doing it and willing to keep doing it. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Absolutely. And thank you for the time and opportunity.
A real pleasure.
You have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Hey, thank you for listening to the ColemanNation podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. If you like the show, please rate it 5 stars and leave a review. For more information, please visit the show's website at ColemanNation.com. That's Coleman-Nation.com. Or you can visit my blog at likelihoodofconfusion.com. Join us next time on the Coleman Nation podcast and have a great day.